The Galactic Peace Alliance had seen countless species rise and fall over the eons. They prided themselves on cataloging the traits, tendencies, and potential dangers of each species they encountered. When they turned their attention to Earth, they were unimpressed. By galactic standards, humans were average, neither particularly large nor physically imposing. Their technology was primitive compared to the hyper-advanced civilizations within the Alliance, and their tendency for emotional outbursts made them seem erratic at best. In the initial reports, humans were described as quaint. Their literature and art were charming but ultimately insignificant, and their obsession with competitive games was deemed childlike. The GPA analysts, with their cold logic and dispassionate assessments, concluded that humans posed no meaningful threat to galactic stability. If anything, they seemed more like a species in need of guidance, a fledgling civilization still finding its place in the vast cosmos. The Alliance's ambassadors were sent to Earth, expecting to meet a cooperative, if somewhat naive, people. What they found only reinforced their initial assumptions. The humans greeted them with overwhelming enthusiasm, hosting elaborate ceremonies filled with music, speeches, and displays of cultural pride. To the ambassadors, it felt excessive, almost desperate, as though humanity were trying to prove its worth to beings far beyond its station. One ambassador, a towering insectoid scholar named Trelvac, summarized the general sentiment during a private discussion. They are harmless, primitive but eager. A species destined to be guided, not feared. Trelvac's colleagues agreed, dismissing the few unsettling aspects of human history they had uncovered. They noted humanity's penchant for conflict, but these wars seemed like the squabbles of children compared to the galaxy-spanning conflicts the GPA had witnessed. Even the so-called world wars were brushed aside as local affairs, significant only within the narrow scope of Earth. When the humans spoke of their rules of war, the ambassadors barely contained their amusement. They interpreted this as yet another example of human naivety, a bizarre attempt to impose morality on something as chaotic and brutal as conflict. To the GPA, war was an unfortunate inevitability of primitive species striving for dominance. The idea that humans had tried to regulate it seemed absurd. Yet there were moments during the diplomatic exchanges that gave the ambassadors pause. Human representatives often spoke with a strange combination of humility and pride. They acknowledged their flaws openly, even joked about their shortcomings, but there was a glint in their eyes, a quiet confidence that seemed out of place. This confidence was dismissed as posturing, an instinctive attempt to appear strong in the presence of superior beings. As the discussions continued, the aliens grew increasingly comfortable. They shared stories of their own civilizations, their achievements, and their philosophies, confident in their dominance. To them, humanity was a species to be molded, a potential ally to uplift. None of them realized, at that moment, how thoroughly they had underestimated the beings seated across from them. The humans listened intently, nodding and smiling, but behind their polite expressions lay the first hints of something the GPA would soon come to understand far too late. The Marine's words hung in the air long after he finished speaking. The aliens, once assured of their superiority, were now faced with a reality they had underestimated. Humanity's ability to impose structure on chaos, to balance instinct with morality, had unsettled them in a way they hadn't anticipated. The crystalline ambassador, Yorick, broke the silence first. Your species embraces this paradox, then. Chaos controlled. How can such a thing exist? The Marine responded calmly. Because survival isn't just about strength. It's about adaptability. Humanity doesn't just fight to win. We fight to endure. That requires more than brute force. It demands creativity, strategy, and discipline. Another alien, a tall, serpentine being named Vrandar, spoke next. And yet you speak of resilience in the same breath as destruction. You call it order, but what is left when the conflict ends? What do you build from the ashes? The Marine's gaze sharpened. We build from the lessons of those ashes. From the mistakes, the suffering, the loss. We honor the past by ensuring it doesn't repeat. That's why humans have survived, even as countless empires and civilizations have come and gone. Trelvak's expression was contemplative now, his usual coldness giving way to something more thoughtful. You speak of restraint, but what of your history of conquest? The expansion that led to your so-called world wars? Surely that was not driven by morality. The Marine's voice remained steady. Expansion, yes. Conflict, yes. But conquest doesn't always mean destruction. We've sought growth, just like any species. But even in conquest, we recognize the importance of cultural exchange and compromise. The days of empires swallowing worlds whole are long behind us. There was a pause. The Marine's words seemed to force the aliens to reconsider how they viewed human history, no longer just a collection of chaotic conflicts, but a long, complicated narrative of growth and adaptation. Yorick tilted its head, its crystalline facets catching the light as it considered the Marine's explanation. And yet, this adaptive nature has brought you to the brink of extinction more than once. Were your wars, not your downfalls? The Marine gave a small, dry laugh. Survival is rarely painless. History is full of setbacks, failures, and sacrifices. But every time we've teetered on the edge of annihilation, we've adapted. We've changed. Humanity doesn't destroy itself. We evolve. Randar, the tall alien, seemed intrigued despite his earlier skepticism. And in this evolution, what drives your species forward beyond mere survival? What is the force behind your adaptability? The Marine paused for a moment, the question lingering. Then, without hesitation, he said, hope. The belief that no matter how dark things get, there's always something worth fighting for. Whether it's peace, understanding, or simply the possibility of a better future. For the first time, the aliens shared subtle glances, glimpses of a realization dawning in their minds. They had believed humanity to be irrational, driven by passion and emotional chaos. Yet here they were, faced with a species that had survived through reason and an unyielding desire to endure, not merely in spite of conflict, but because of it.